In the last tutorial, we talked a little bit about doing a GUI HUD. And so in this tutorial, we're going to take a look at doing some pathfinding. And pathfinding has to deal with artificial intelligence with non-playable characters. So I thought it'd be a little bit more interesting to show you guys a project that some friends and I are working on. And if you're interested in learning how to model this character, there's also videos on the site on how to model, rig, and animate this character. So there's a couple things in this scene that I would like. So I modeled up this robot here. This is the actual enemy in the game, is this robot. And I want him to be able to travel across this surface, or I want him to be able to attack. I want him to walk up here, be able to traverse this entire surface here while chasing after my character. So there's a couple things I need to do whenever you're creating a Navmesh, is you need to select the pathway that you want your character to go on. Now, if you look here, you'll notice that this is a tiled ground piece. So I kind of shifted it so you could see that a little bit. This is a tiled ground piece. So all I really have to do is select one of these and one of these. And when I go to apply the Navmesh to it, it'll actually apply it to anywhere that is this exact same model duplicated, or that is a prefab, because this is a prefab of this model. If you have a scene where each one of these is a separate object, so an example of that is right here. These are different tiled ground pieces, or roads, that I'm sort of building out from this area here. And so what I would have to do is select each one of these individually. So let me kind of show you an example of what I'm talking about. So as you can see from the repeatable texture around here, that if I just select this, and I select this one ground piece, when I go to apply the Navmesh, you're going to see this entire area all the way through here turning blue. So the first thing I want to do is go to my inspector and make sure that they're both checked on static. Now when I go into navigation, I want to check on navigation static. They're currently part of this default layer, and then I'm just going to simply hit bake. Now what you'll notice is when I hit bake, it created this blue mesh all the way around this area. And what that's going to do is it's going to, again, allow anybody that I tag as a non-playable character. So for example, there's some NPCs here I put, which are characters that are not enemies, but they just happen to be characters that walk around the scene. And then there's actual robots that are in my environment. So now say I want my characters to also walk around this scene. Now remember what I told you before, this and this are two separate objects. So I'm just going to go ahead and hold Control, select all of this and this centerpiece, but not these, and just hit bake again. Now what you'll notice is it didn't apply it. Let's clear our scene and let's do that one more time. So I'm going to select all of these. Oh, I know the reason. I didn't mark them as static. So let's go ahead and make sure that navigation static. Let's turn that on. I'm going to check this and then hit apply or bake. Now you can see that it went all the way into all these pieces, but it did not affect these, and that's because they weren't selected. And that's okay, because I just want my enemies to stay on this path so that maybe my player can run past here and hide, or actually I should also make sure that I have these two pieces selected. Turn on navigation static and bake that out as well. That way it's a seamless navigation path. So the next thing I want to do is I want to take a look at my non-playable characters. Now when I zoom into my scene, it's going to remove it. It's just going to remove it from the view, but it's not actually going to get rid of my nav mesh. So any character that you want to be able to walk across the mesh is called a Navmesh agent. So we're going to go ahead and look at getting this little boy here to move. And I don't have my animations hooked up for him. And getting this little enemy here to move around our scene. And each one of those will be separate Navmesh agents. Okay, so for you guys, what you can do is just make a simple cube in your scene if you don't have two characters. So I'm going to select my robot here. Actually, let's make sure that I'm on the construction bots total, the highest level. And then I'm just going to go to Component, Physics, Navmesh Agent. Or is it under Window? Let me see, hold on. Component, Navigation, Navmesh Agent. There we go. And I'm just going to tweak this side. Now this cube, or the cylinder that appears, is actually the, you can think of it as the collider object. Okay, and let's do the same thing for our kid character here. So I'm going to go to Component, Navigation, Navmesh Agent. So this will kind of control all of, the height, the speed, and all of that good stuff for our our character. All right, so let's jump back to our navigation panel here, and let's go ahead and make sure that his is also set to his height. Set that just a little bit lower, and I might expand it because he's kind of a big character. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, and you want to make sure obstacle avoidance is set to high quality. That's so that when you're looking at your scene, it'll be able to detect all of this stuff. So for example, we can actually set this object to static as well, and it'll actually avoid this object altogether. It won't walk through walls or anything like that. And actually this object here doesn't have collision on it. Otherwise, let's see if there's an object that so this object, this house, has collision, and you'll notice that due to the mesh collider that's on there, it actually marked off the blue area in which our character can move, which is up the steps here. And that's just due to the collider on this apartment building. Well, this particular apartment building. So let's take a look at making sure that it's on this guy as well. So I'll go back to my inspector, high quality, advanced. Navmesh walkable, we want to make sure that's on everything as well, so that it doesn't, so it can actually walk around and avoid everything. All right. And so in the next tutorial, we'll take a look at how do we script it so that our characters walk along this nav mesh